Shalom Bethel family. It is Thursday, time once again to review our Torah talk from the sanctuary at Congregation Bethel this past week. This past week we studied Parshat Vayishlach. That was the Torah reading. And I wanted to use it as an opportunity to talk a little bit about names. You know, I was thinking a lot about names last week. We had a beautiful baby born into the congregation, and I sat there and I was holding this baby, and the parents are observing the sort of Jewish tradition not to tell the name of the baby boy until after his bris. I looked at him, this beautiful baby boy, and I just thought, it's amazing. I can't wait to learn your name. And it just reminded me how important a name is, how it connects us sometimes to previous generations, sometimes to the hopes and dreams of our parents. And names are really so important. And thinking about it, I thought back to my days studying Shakespeare and the poem, the play Romeo and Juliet, in which Juliet says very famously a line that we say all the time: "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet." It's funny when we use pieces of literature out of context to not really understand exactly what they mean. We usually say that what's in a name, that which we call a rose by any other name would smell as sweet. What Juliet is saying is not exactly that names are not important. We throw it around as if to say names and identifications are not important. In fact, if you do the whole quote, you realize Juliet's saying something a bit more nuanced than that, because it continues, right? A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. So Romeo would, were he not Romeo called, retain that dear perfection which he owes without that title Romeo doff thy name. And for thy name, which is no part of thee, take all myself. Right? She wants him to get rid of his name, so the name must be important. So what does it mean? It means, yes, Romeo is still this wonderful person who she loves regardless of his name. The name doesn't make him any less of a person. So what is the importance of the name? The name may not define Romeo's nature or character, but it does define his destiny. And so too is how we find the Jewish approach to names as well. We do believe that names are connected to our destinies. It's why we are so careful when we name them. And in honor of Parshat Vayishlach and the renaming of our forefather Yaakov to Yisrael, I want to talk a little about the names that we Jews call ourselves. All right, so there are three names by which we are referred in the Bible, and they're all over these maybe last few weeks that we've learned these names, right? So the first one is, we call ourselves Jews, right? It comes from Judaism. Judah is a name that we learned actually in the Parsha before Vayishlach, one of Jacob's sons. When Judah is named Judah by Leah, Yehudah by Leah, it says, and she conceived again and bore a son, and she said, this time I will thank the Lord. Therefore she named him Yehudah, and that was her last child. So Yehudah means the one who is thankful. And so too, Jews as a people are the ones who are thankful. When you think about all of our mitzvot and the blessings we say, the way we eat, all those things are ways that we express gratitude to God for all the beautiful and wonderful things we have in the world. Right? Gratitude is a tool that Jews use to recognize how amazing the world is. Rather than walk through the world in the way that is so tempting, with our heads down, just, this is mundane, this is what happens every day. We call these things out and say we're grateful for them to remind us just how beautiful the world all around us is all the time. In that way, we lift up our lives through gratitude. When we call ourselves Jews, the children of Judah, we are the ones who use Judaism as a tool to find the sacred in life. The second name I want to talk about is one that comes from Parshat Vayishlach itself, right? Jacob wrestles with an angel the night before he's going to meet his brother Esau. He's scared, he's alone. We're not really sure who that angel is. But the important thing for this particular teaching is that he beats the angel, and the angel tells him, I have to go. The sun is coming out. I can't be here at dawn. And Jacob says, I won't let you go till you give me a blessing. And the blessing the angel gives to Jacob is, no longer will you be known as Yaakov. Instead, now you will be known as Yisrael, because you have striven with beings both divine and human, and you have prevailed. Right? What does Yisrael mean? It means the one who wrestles with God. Right? And that is also a definition of our people. What does it mean to wrestle with God? What does it mean to grapple with the divine? Well, Abraham, the very first Jew, defines that for us pretty well when God comes and says, I'm going to destroy the city of Sodom. And Abraham says, no, you can't. That would be unjust if there are 50 innocent people. And God says, oh, there's not 50 innocent people. He said, I didn't mean 50, I meant 30, 20, 10. And finally, he gives up his cause. But what kind of chutzpah is that, to go to God, God's self, and say, you can't destroy this city, it would be unjust. God creates justice. God is justice. But no, that's not the approach that Abraham takes. That's not the approach of Yisrael. We don't accept anything blindly. We constantly ask questions. We constantly probe and prod and explore how our religious questions match our secular knowledge questions, how Judaism can impact our life, what role God plays in our life, and how we interact with God. All of that is up for debate, and we debate constantly. That is Yisrael. The people who are not only grateful to God at all times, but also who wrestle with God. And there's one more name, actually, and that one comes from a few weeks ago. It's a name that we first hear reference to Abraham in Bereshit chapter 14. There's a war between these kings, and Lot, Abraham's nephew, gets captured, and a messenger comes running, and it says, and the fugitive came and told Avram ha'Ivri, Abraham the Hebrew. Now, Ivri means Hebrew, and maybe it's just as simple as we're the people who speak Hebrew, but I think it's a little bit more than that. Right? Hebrew comes from the word avar. Avar means to pass, to be on the other side or to pass through. So the Ivrim are the ones who pass through, who stand on the other side. And I would like to posit that in this case, Ivrim means that we are the people who pass through history, the people who historical events happen and they come out on the other side, right? We are an immortal people. The Ivrim are an immortal people. And so that is our destiny as the Jewish people. And it is a destiny that is still so relevant today. How much more beauty would we see in the world? How much more purpose would we find if we really embrace being the children of Yehudah, the Jews, the people who give thanks all the time, who recognize all the beauty in the world by calling it out and using that to elevate our lives? How often are we called on to struggle with God, with the injustices we see in the world, with the imperfections we see in how the world is made, and have to wrestle to bring that world into line with what we understand God to be or hope that we can be. We're the people, the B'nai Yisrael, those who wrestle with God and with man to prevail. And indeed, we are the Ivrim, an immortal people who pass through history and always come out on the other side. Hopefully sharing our wisdom of gratitude, our wisdom of wrestling with God, of struggling and grappling, always asking questions, always digging deeper. And by using those tools to always be the ones who come out on the other side of history, to be the immortal people that we've been for 3,500 years since these ancestors of ours walked the earth. We pray that we can be the link in the chain to the next 3,500 years, celebrating what it means to be the Jews, to be the B'nai Israel, to be the Ivrim. And with that, I wish you Shabbat Shalom. Look forward to chatting again next week.